All right, g'day, hi, and welcome. I'm out of breath. Very warm right now. It's about 0, which is kind of nice, but I want it minus 10 all the time. Number one, it keeps me cool. Number two, anything warmer than minus 10, you know, the furs get thick when it gets into that minus 20 and minus 30 at night. Minus 40, that's when your furs get like big puff balls, right? And that's cha-ching. Okay, so this video is going to be geared towards the SHTF prepper types and these Woodmaster bushcraft types. And I'm not criticizing, I'm just saying that this is where experience kind of, you know, a different experience might be something you might want to consider. Okay, so obviously I'm a trapper. When I look at most of these bushcraft people, most of them live in the city. So there's a lot of things that they haven't been exposed to, such as hunting, fishing, trapping, and stuff like that. And they start to get into it, and you'll see over time that they start to get into it. But the worst I see, and this I will criticize just because it's inefficient and it's dangerous and downright cruel if you're doing it wrong. And that's these little deadfall traps and the catch, you know, like the bird catchers, like stuff that's just more likely to maim an animal than it is to kill an animal. Now, the thing is my experience is that I've killed a lot of animals over the years. You know, like, I mean, I grew up, you know, pretty much as redneck could be. Even though I lived in the city half my life, you know, I grew up around hunters and trappers and people like that. So one of the things I was always taught, if you're going to kill something, kill it. You know what I mean? Don't get fancy, just kill it. You know, be quick, be efficient, do all that, right? And when I see these deadfall traps and stuff like that, number one, you're wasting your energy. Because the first thing is, they'll set up a deadfall trap in the middle of nowhere, up on a rock somewhere, expecting to catch a rabbit on top of a rock. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, number one, you're going to starve to death. Number two, why don't you go where the food is? I constantly say the trail is the bait. And it is. Why? Wherever I walk, the animals are walking. Why? Because I'm making them a nice trail. So I know if I'm going to hunt, I'm going to watch the trail. Right? Now, if I was starving, okay, and I wanted a good size meal, I'm not talking a little rabbit. A rabbit, because of they have no nutrition, you can basically, starvation diet is basically what happens with rabbit. There's no nutrients in them. I want something good eating. Let's say like a beaver. Okay, well, number one, I know that if I can find a beaver house and I could get I don't even need a sharp stick to get them. I just need a blunt stick. Something to whack them over the head. If I can sit quietly enough right above the entrance just before the evening, even if you have to sit there for an hour or two, I'm gonna have a meal that day, and a big ass meal too. I can sit there, make a spear, whatever, just wait for them to come out, kind of like the way the Inuit wait for the you know, the seals to pop up through the ice. But if we're talking like in the middle of summer, it's just, okay, now mind you, when they come out of that hole, out of the house, they're going to be coming out pretty fast. So you're going to have to, you know, work on your spear jabbing techniques and whatever. But yeah, there you go. You would, number one, only have to make a stick, sharp enough, maybe about that round, and something that you could skewer them with, right? And you might have to wait a few hours. So here's what happens. You're waiting a few hours, you're not expending any energy, right? You're right on the trail, right on basically the entrance of their door. It's a matter of time before one comes out. Guaranteed. You know that beaver are more nocturnal. So you wait right at the evening. You can even watch it a day ahead of time, whatever. See when they kind of come out or whatever. Or just sit there, sit really quiet. And just check my traps here. And whenever they come out, whack them with the spear. You got lunch. Maybe get a big one, maybe get a small one. Doesn't matter, you get lunch, right? Rather than set up these deadfalls that aren't going to work and all that kind of stuff. Now, if you are a prepper, right now, depending on your, what you call it, the area you live, check out what your trapping regulations, even if you're not into trapping. My 330 conibears, okay, even a gold-plated one wouldn't be over $100, you know what I mean? like you can buy them for 40 to 60 bucks for a 330 conibear, which can kill you a 100-pound animal easily, let alone anything smaller. and effectively, especially if you're watching the techniques that I'm showing you. They might not be the best in the world, but again, that little beaver I caught yesterday, perfect double capture. The other two beavers, good captures right around the neck, and both of them had broken neck. When you got a trap that could break the neck of a 62-pound beaver on land, that's pretty impressive, right? Kills them quick, no struggle, and you end up with meat. So very good investment. The trapping thing that I'm doing right now, most of you probably, you know, look at it just, okay, this is just the daily life of a trapper and whatever, and I'm not interested in that. But if you're picking up on the skills, if we were in a full economic collapse or SHTF or whatever, this is what you would be doing. And this is why I show so much, because, you know, I'm kind of showing you a glance of how much work you're going to be putting in, you know, and I'm also showing you that if you're not well set up, how quickly you're going to starve. There's a reason why there wasn't 10 billion people or 7 billion people on the planet, you know, a couple hundred years ago. For this very reason, it's not easy to do, and it's very physically demanding. So my tip is this: watch the channel, learn some stuff, right, and research it. And once you start seeing how I'm doing this stuff, you're never going to use those bushcraft. Like, I'm not saying it's not a good technique to learn, whatever, but if you were lost in the bush anyway, right, right, you don't want to be expending energy unless you can put energy into you. So you need to find fresh water, then you need to find food, and then of course shelter or whatever, whichever your priority is, right? The three things. But what I'm also telling you is that you're going to expend a lot of these Man versus Wild, Ray Mears, and Survivor Man stuff. A lot of it is Hollywood. You know what I mean? Like, I look at it, it's like, why would you expend that much energy if you didn't have to? You know what I mean? Because I'm not going to go running after stuff. Like, if you've ever saw the movie The Hunger Games, where that opening scene where the girl, little spoiler alert, the girl's running along with her bow trying to hunt the deer. I'm like, number one, if you're making that much noise, you're not going to see any deer. Number two, you're never going to run fast enough to catch a deer. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you're going to be an ambush predator. That's what makes us an apex predators. We know how to ambush. In fact, we know how to ambush animals so well, we don't even have to be there when it happens, because we can set traps for them. You know what I mean? So, like, just consider yourself remarkable in that sense, but also understand that the food chain, nature doesn't bow down to the food chain. You know what I mean? Meaning, if you had to survive on it, you know, you really have to know your territory, where the animals are going, how to track the animals, where the trails are, where they're going to be, and roughly when they're going to be there. Trail cam makes this a lot easier for most of us, but some of us just, you know, the animals tell us where they're going by their tracks. They tell us what they're eating by their poop, you know, etc., etc. So you could figure out a lot of strategies that way. So think first, act second is kind of the way you should do things. And I thought this was an important video that, yes, this is more about the day in the life of a trapper, but this is also the kind of stuff you'll be doing in the event of an SHTF, like a true SHTF. The grocery stores aren't being full and you had to go and survive. Yeah. Now, mind you, if it came down to that, like, even a guy like me, okay, who's fairly well set up, you know, might not catch an animal every night. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to catch a whack load of animals really quick, okay, and then you'll basically expire that area. Okay, so when this beaver house is trapped out, that's it. You know what I mean? I put those traps in like about a week or so ago, and within a week I've caught three animals out of it. Okay, so I could feed myself technically, but I wouldn't feed much more than myself on 3 animals. That'd be pretty skimpy if I had nothing else to mix with it, right? Plus, if you were in the bush, you'd have to figure out how to, you know, dry out the animals so that you could have jerky and stuff like that. You know, all those things, that's what you should be learning, is that. But the thing is again, I understand some of these bushcraft people too, they don't have the license to hunt and whatever. So deadfall traps, all these kind of maim them traps, no, because I think if anything, even if you do get lucky enough and you get a rock to fall on something, you know, like, you're more likely to break its leg And trust me, that animal is going to fight to live until it can't. That means that animal might live for another 6 months with a broken leg because you were experimenting. Don't experiment. If you're going to kill it, kill it. And that's my lecture for today. So watch and again, for your prepper types, again, watch what I'm doing, because this is what you're going to be doing. And this is what, also when I talk about my family nation future stuff, and I'll just end on this, is what I'm talking about. Like back in the day, this is why the families were so big, because one son would go out on the trap line while the other son would work in the stables, while the other son would be working out in the garden, right? Or maybe not all at the same time, because you're not going to be trapping when there's gardens, but you get the idea. And that's why they did it, or how they did it. They divided the tasks amongst everybody, right? And when you got home, the mums and the daughters would skin up the beavers and whatever and harvest the food while the men would go out and hunt. And that was a nice traditional roles, and it worked out well. Now, if you gave me the option of running out on the trap line and grabbing all the animals versus skinning and fleshing the hides and all that, what would I rather take? Well, it's all work. It doesn't really matter. Like if you're set up and you're in a nice cozy area where you're working on, taking your time skinning up the animal and all that, okay, that's, at least you're not freezing wet and soaking and whatever. But you're full of grease and fat and whatever. And if you're not doing that, well, you're out here where even on a day where it's dry, you're still soaking wet. So there's no free lunch is what I'm telling you. So anyway, I just got to leave it at that. A few other little tips. It's just the reason why I see people doing that is because they see one YouTuber do it and then they try